Welcome to Westmoreland Bulldogs, a podcast. I'm Callahan Marshall here with Superintendent Mr. Migliori. Mr. Migliori, how are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. So we have this proposed capital project, a vote coming pretty soon here. What can you tell us about this project?
Absolutely. So we're excited about this. We have a $10.5 million, $10.4 million capital project that our school board has been working on for over a year. And we'll be voting on the 13th of February. So there's a lot of pieces to this project, and we would encourage everybody certainly to go to the website, to read the newsletter, read all the information that's out there so they can get all the particulars. And if there's anything in there that is not clear, please, we encourage you to call or email. But certainly we'll talk a little bit about the aspects of the project now. So included in this $10.5 million project is work to all three of the school buildings as well as some athletic fields. Most people will probably remember the last capital improvement project that we did. There was an extensive amount of work done to the bus garage at that time. So we won't be doing any work to that building at this time, but we will certainly be doing work in the other three buildings. So a couple things in particular. In the primary elementary school that was built in 1964, there'll be a little bit of work done in that building to create some handicap accessible restrooms that don't currently exist, to replace windows that are original to the construction of the school. So like I said, the school was opened in 1964, so the windows are almost 60 years old in some areas. So we will replace windows. We'll be replacing some doors and hardware. And another major part of that project, which is coded under the elementary school, but not necessarily specific to the elementary school, is to do some site work behind the school where some sinkholes have been created as a result of some drainage issues that we have back there.
Behind that school, I just want to ask, we have practices back there.
We do.
Yeah, so
we do. So great point. So there are soccer practices back there for school teams as well as ASO teams who use our facilities. And there's baseball and softball practice back there. Most of the people in this community, I think, will recognize that the entire back of our facility is bordered by wetlands, DC protected wetlands. So there's it's difficult sometimes to do work back there, but we do need to maintain our facilities. And one of the things that's happened back there is that as the wetland has become larger and encroached on our facilities, there's more water runoff, and there's some underground irrigation behind the elementary school. And that irrigation that was put in probably about 60 years ago is no longer large enough to maintain what needs to be done back there. And there's some areas where we believe the irrigation pipes have been crushed, just as a result of wear and tear. So we do need to do some site work back there to mitigate some of the flooding issues that exist behind that building. Some of the work in the other buildings, in the high school specifically, we've done a lot of work in the high school probably over the last 15 years, but certainly we have to protect our investment here. So some of the work that will be done here will be to fix some roofs that are beyond their warranty level. We'll be extending the boiler chimneys that are outside of the cafeteria and elevating those a little bit so that we're not getting exhaust into the classrooms.
I was just going to ask what that would do.
Yep. Some of the other work that will be done in this building will be replacement of some doors, reconstruction of tennis courts. We've had some water and frost damage done to some of the tennis courts, so we need to repair one
There's
extensively.
Cracks in them, I heard.
Yes, exactly, cracks in the courts. And we use those in the fall and in the spring for varsity tennis practice, and the community uses them quite a bit too. So the cracks have created a hazard out there. Also tied to the high school will be a portable softball outfield fence. That's important for maintaining that softball field.
And can that be used at other fields too?
It will be. It will be. It will also allow the outfield to be used as a multi-use facility for soccer and football and whatever else needs to be used out there. So the fence will be actually constructed every spring, and then we have the ability to take it down at the end of the season.
Okay, all right.
Which would be awesome. Much of the building work this year will be done at the upper elementary school, formerly the middle school. I know people look at that building and probably say, why so much work at that building? It's a new building. Well, it's almost 25 years old, and as in any building that's 25 years old, there's wear and tear. And certainly it's incumbent upon us to protect the investment that we have in that building. So some of the work that will be done at that building will be roof replacement and window replacement. If you look at that building, you probably don't see any types of structural issues that need to be taken care of, but those are wooden windows.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't be putting wooden windows into newly constructed buildings today. They're metal. So what's happened with those wooden windows over the course of the last 25 years that they've warped in places, and so they're not energy efficient, and certainly the warping creates moisture to enter into the building. So those windows do need to be replaced. And again, the roof is 25 years old. The fire alarm system needs to be upgraded in that building. The gym floor needs to be replaced in that building, and we need to create some handicap accessible walkways from the cafeteria to the playground. When that building was open, there wasn't a playground. The playground has been added in subsequent years, and we continue to add to that as well. So some handicap accessible walkways to get the students out to recess. And the other major portion of this project is renovation to the existing football field and stadium and track. What the proposed project is here is to replace the grass football field with an artificial turf field. And it's important to note that the turf field will have an organic infill in it. It won't be the typical rubber infill, so that we can be ecologically and environmentally conscious of the environment and the aquifer that sits over. The problem we have with the current field now is that it's very, very, very difficult to maintain. It's almost impossible to go out there and fertilize that because of the existing aquifer. And with the inability to maintain it, certainly what happens over wear and tear 3, 4, 5 football games is that it becomes a mud hole. And it needs to take 6, 7, 8 months in between uses before we could rehab it enough to use it again the following year. And so,
and it's costly to maintain that too, right?
It's very costly to maintain, and especially because, again, we can't use any kind of fertilizer or pesticides on it. So the turf field will give us the opportunity to have a multi-use facility. We'll be able to play football on it. We'll be able, as many football games as we need, between modified, varsity, Pop Warner. We'll be able to play soccer games out there. We'll be able to have marching band practice and field band practice. Right now, it's the activities that we're able to hold on the field are limited based on the condition of the field that we can't maintain, right?
Yep.
And so this is more than just an aesthetically pleasing piece of this project. It's about multiple use field, being able to use a field 12 months a year. And obviously we would need lights in order to extend the use of the field. We look at October, November, it's dark at 5 o'clock. This would allow us to use that field till 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night.
And Pop Warner did tell me that when they have practices going into October, it gets later, so they have to find other places to go practice. But if we had this field with the lights, they said they would definitely be utilizing it.
100%.
Yep.
And we've also talked about spring sports. It's not always easy to get out there in the baseball field and the softball field the end of March, beginning of April. And even though we don't have plans now for the turf field to be lined for baseball and softball, at least allow people to get out there for early spring workouts.
Yep. And then also, too, marching band. We could use that field for marching band.
Yeah, one of the things that we've heard a lot from parents is that our marching band is awesome. They do a great job. They're the pride of the community. But we've never been able to hold a marching band competition here.
And we would be
always
ideal.
on the road.
We'd be ideal because we're really close to the thruway.
100%. Be able to let our marching band participants participate here, and a great thing for the community. And we also have been approached by Section 3 a number of times asking about the ability to use our field for contests, to your point, because we are centralized and right off the thruway. And so there's opportunity for that field to be a revenue producer for us as well.
And the town.
And the town, yep. Yep. So there are a lot of uses. I think sometimes people look at it and maybe will say, well, it's not necessary. It's aesthetically pleasing, but it really gives us the opportunity to use it much more, maybe 9-10 months a year with lights and hopefully produce revenue.
Yeah, and then the organic infill turf that, I mean, I know there were issues before surrounding the water supply.
Yeah, well, 100%.
This is healthy.
Yep. We tried this about 10 years ago, and one of the things that we heard at that time was that there were some concerns about the infill that is placed within these turfs, and a lot of times it's recycled tires, which, as we know, are rubber, and there was some concern that the runoff from the rubber could pollute nearby water supplies. And that probably is still a concern for people today. So our board has spent an awful lot of time looking at alternatives to that. And we've talked to our architects, our landscape architects, and we've recognized that there are probably 10 or 12 organic options to that. So we're committed to an organic option. Can't tell you exactly what it's going to be right now. It could be bark from oak trees. It could be walnut shells. There are a whole host of options, and once this project is approved, hopefully approved, we will look at all those options, and at that point we will choose a vendor and the appropriate organic infill. But we're committed to an organic infill.
Okay. So why now? Why is this project important now?
Great question. So I think in order to talk about why now, I need to also talk about funding. So the why now is it's a two-part thing. So I guess I would look at it in terms of the same way we would look at protecting our investments in our own individual properties at home. We need to protect our investments, right? You know, you need roof work, and your house may need to be painted, and you may need to pull up the carpet and put down a new hardwood floor, whatever the case is. It's normal wear and tear.
Maintenance.
Regular maintenance. Yep. We have a $55 or $60 million asset here, and we need to maintain our assets. Roof work, you know, roofs in central New York are good for 15, 20, 25 years at the most. Windows, so some of this is normal wear and tear that needs to be taken care of. And as I did say when I was talking about the primary elementary, there's a lot of flood plain and wetland mitigation work that needs to be done. All told, within this project, there's about $600,000 or $700,000 of mitigation work between dredging some wetlands and creating outlets for storm water. There's a lot of water around here, and we need to divert that water away from our property because we're losing property through erosion. So why now? Normal wear and tear, expansion of wetlands, and from a financial perspective, why now? We're retiring debt. You know, some of the projects that we've done in years past are the last payments are coming due, which has freed up money for us. So maybe I could talk about the funding piece of this for a second, because this is somewhat counterintuitive for us to think this way, because when we retire debt in our personal lives, we're excited. You know, we take the money that we would be using for a car payment after we paid off a car, or the money we would be using for a mortgage payment after we paid off our homes. We either spend it on luxury items, or we go buy another vehicle, or we put it in a savings account, and it becomes a windfall for us. What happens in schools, though, is it affects the way our building aid is calculated and dispersed to us, right? So if I can maybe just talk about that for a minute.
Go right ahead. I think explaining this to people will help them understand a little more.
Sure. So I'll use maybe some numbers, just simple numbers to make the math easier for folks to understand. So if we take, for instance, a $15 million project, and again, ours is only 10 and 10.4 million, but I'm going to use 15 for sake of math here. The way New York State will fund a $15 million project is they will reimburse us what our building aid is. Building aid is a function of income in the community as well as poverty rates in the community. So in Westmoreland, our building aid is close to 90%. So what that means is that in an approved project, New York State will reimburse us 90% of the overall cost of the project, and they'll do it over 15 years. Okay, so if we look at a $15 million project, and this is after interest rates and everything are added, we would assume it's about $1 million a year. We would pay for 15 years. So what New York State will do is reimburse us 90% of that payment the year after we make the payment.
Okay.
So we're following this. So year one of our payment, suppose the first payment is due in 2025. We will make a $1 million payment on the bond in 2025, which is the first payment of the project. In 2026, New York State will reimburse us 90% of that,
Right.
which is $900,000. Right? So what we would then do is have to add $100,000 to the $900,000 reimbursement to
Right.
make that year's payment.
Right.
That $100,000, which is the local share, comes out of our capital reserve fund. And so the voters in this community allowed us to create a capital reserve fund of up to $5 million a number of years ago. And the money can only be used for capital projects.
Yeah, legally we can't do anything else with it, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yep.
So in essence, what happens is that we will make a $1 million payment this year. We will get $1 million worth of work done. It will cost the local taxpayers only $100,000. But that money's coming out of a reserve fund that can only be used for that purpose anyway, right? Some people will say, well, that's not entirely accurate. That $900,000 is coming from taxpayers anyway. And absolutely right, but that $900,000 is coming from taxpayers across New York State. New York State has a capital improvement fund that they budget every year. We, taxpayers in this community, add to that fund when they pay their New York State taxes. That money is designated for capital projects.
Yeah.
If it doesn't come to Westmoreland, it's going to go somewhere else. So this is a way for us to bring some of our money home too, and supplement our local share with money that we've been able to save over the course of the last couple of years. So to get back to this, the why now piece, so if you follow that example I was giving you, our first payment is in 2025, first reimbursement is 2026. If our last payment is made in 2040, for instance, on this bond, we make our last payment, our bond has been paid off. The following year, we will get that $900,000 reimbursement back from New York State, but we don't have another bond to put that money against if we don't have other debt.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yep, good.
So we have a $900,000 check, and some people would say, put it against taxes. Well, we can, but it's a one-shot deal, right?
Right.
And so that $900,000 the following year doesn't exist. We would have to make up that $900,000 somewhere.
Somewhere else, yeah.
Somewhere, plus probably a budget increase. You know, we're never going to go a year without a budget increase. So that $900,000 is now $1 million in next year's budget that creates a hole.
Okay.
Right?
Yep.
And so it doesn't really make sense to take that $900,000, put it in a capital, or I'm sorry, put it into a general fund, because there's no way to make that money up the following year, and there's really not a mechanism to save that money.
Right.
Right?
Yep, makes sense.
And so as we are getting closer to retiring debt, it makes sense that we add more debt to the books because we have the money to offset those payments. Which is
Okay.
the position
Yep.
we're in now. We're retiring debt in the next couple of years, but we still have the aid payments coming in the year after. If all that makes
Yep.
sense. I know it's difficult to kind of understand, but financially we're in a really good position now to do this work. Our building aid ratio is close to 90%, and we will have money coming off that we just have to add a little bit to out of our capital reserve fund to pay our bills, so to speak.
And I think it's important to note that this project requires no increase to taxpayers.
Zero. The 10%, which would be the local share, is already saved. The district has already saved that money. Again, the community voted to allow us to save that money a number of years ago. The money is in a savings account. It's in a locked box account, so to speak, that can only be used for capital improvement projects.
Yep. Because 88% is being paid for by the state, and then is it 12%?
Yep.
From our capital reserves.
Exactly.
Which
Exactly.
we already have.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So no money, no increase to taxpayers.
Zero increase to local taxpayers to do a $10.5 million project.
Okay. And why would you say this project is crucial for the students here?
So a number of reasons. Certainly, if I could just go back to the wetlands issue for a second, we need to figure out a way to divert water around our property. You know, we have to be considerate of the wetlands. They're New York State, DEC protected wetlands, and we understand that. But as those wetlands are becoming larger, we're losing property.
Right.
There's a lot of erosion out there. We've already lost property on the modified soccer field. The wetlands are quickly approaching the upper elementary playground, so we have to divert water.
Yeah.
Because it protects playing fields, it protects our investments in our sites. So that's one piece of it. Certainly when we look at fencing in the softball field and we look at the all-purpose field, it will no longer be called a football field. It certainly will be an all-purpose field.
Yep.
It gives kids other opportunities, different surface to play on, a more professional look to a softball field. In internal work, roof work is always important. We have some leaks that need to be dealt with, and leaky roofs could lead to electrical issues, as we know. Leaky windows could lead to mold issues, as we know. And right now, fortunately, we have none of those issues. We're trying to prevent those issues in the future. So I think a number of reasons. And certainly handicap accessible restrooms,
yes, that's
which
important.
were not mandated when these buildings were built years ago, that we do now need to take into consideration.
Yes, because we do have some handicapped students. in the
Absolutely,
school. Yeah.
absolutely. And we want them here, but we want to be able to meet their needs and,
Comfortable.
be considerate of them. Absolutely.
Okay, anything else you think we should add or you'd like to say?
Certainly a newsletter will be going out at the beginning of January. This information is on the website. We have 3 informational meetings scheduled. January 9th will be at 5:30 prior to a regularly scheduled board meeting. January 23rd will be at 7 o'clock after a regular scheduled board meeting. We'll have a daytime one on Thursday, January 25th at 10 o'clock here in the high school library. We are committed to going and talking with one of the senior citizen groups sometime in January. And so we can come to you if you have questions. If anybody would like a one-on-one conversation about the project, call us. If people want us to talk to groups, call us. Board members of the facilities committee, and I are more than happy to come and have conversations with you. There's a website that's up to date with pictures and financing questions where financing questions are answered. There's an email that is set up specific to this project. If you have questions, please email us, and we will add the questions and the answers to the already existing Q&A
Yeah, as they
documents out
come
there.
in, yep.
And if you have a question, other people probably do as well. So your question will help others. So there's a lot of information out there. We're trying to get out there in various ways. Website and
Text
messages and tweets and newsletters
Yep.
and there are posters that will be here at athletic contests and concerts. And if people desire information in any other way, let us know. We're more than happy to make accommodations.
All right. Well, thank you for talking to me.
In February 13th is the vote. 11 o'clock, 11 to 9 o'clock absentee ballots are available for folks that are not going to be in the area. So please study the project, take a look at what the scope of the work is, and make a decision and come and vote. Appreciate your support, as always.
All right. Thank you, Rocco.
Thank you.
That was very understandable, so I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.